especially brown men, I feel even more, are taught don't cry, don't complain, suck it up, you're not a girl.
Welcome to Million Opinions, Aaliyah Nooru.
Thank you.
Aaliyah, you are a holistic transformation specialist.
Mm-hmm.
You're a manifestation coach,
Mm-hmm.
and you are an oracle card reader.
Yes.
And I'm super ignorant, so please, can you tell me what do these mean?
Please don't call yourself ignorant. It's not a very well-known field. I think it's becoming a lot more popular today with new age spirituality and new thought leaders. But a holistic transformation specialist is basically just, I would say, a fancy word for healer, a holistic healer. So we use mind, body, and soul and go deep into the healing of all three, knowing that a human is not just your mind, it's not just your body, but you're all three: mind, body, and soul. So we heal people from a perspective as a person is all three of those things, and not just, for instance, if you go to a doctor, they will check your body, and if you have any pains, maybe give you some medication for your pain. That's the body. If you go to a therapist, which I studied psychology for depression in university, they will talk to you about the issues that you're facing, say anxiety or depression, and talk to you on a mental level. Whereas a holistic healer comes at it from a more holistic perspective of understanding that all three things are connected. We are human beings with a soul, and we have a mind, we have emotions, we have a physical body, but we also have something that's larger than us. We also have something that we can't physically see or touch. And when you combine all these things together, that's where you get a holistic healer.
Say, for example, if I come to you, what would you address?
So I would first talk to you about what it is that you're facing. So if there's any issues that you're facing in life. Now, everybody goes through life, and everybody has, I'd say, trapped emotions. I'd say I've studied like 9 to 10 different modalities. And the reason I call myself a holistic transformation specialist is because, and not just a healer, is because I haven't studied just one modality. I have really gone deep into the study of holistic healing and trying to understand the root cause of everything, because there's so many things that help one person and wouldn't necessarily help another. And I needed to know how it is that I can help every single person that comes to me. So today I combine all of those things. I've created my own kind of healing modality where you go through lots of different sessions, and I combine all of these things together. And that's a mixture of hypnotherapy, meditation, energy healing, coaching, NLP, talk therapy, quantum touch, emotion code, which is releasing trapped emotions. So if you came to me, I would first sit down and talk to you about a specific issue you're facing. And if you want, we can actually have a live coaching demo session. If you're comfortable with that.
No, thank you. I prefer it to be confidential, yes.
Yeah. But for instance, say you were having a pain in your neck, or you were stressed out and couldn't sleep at night, or you're having issues with your relationship. All of those things have underlying issues, have an underlying reason as to why they're happening. So if it's a physical pain, then we'd go into the root cause of that physical pain, because every single thing is energy. We're all energy. And I'm not talking woo-woo here, even though to a lot of people it sounds pretty off the bat and crazy. And there's a lot of things that people may not believe in, like, for instance, energy healing or intuition. But a lot of the things I do, I like to combine both, because there's no one that can come to me and say, I don't understand what you're doing, because I can pull out the science for it. Because today, in this day and age, there is science in it. So I take modern science and I combine it with ancient wisdom, and the two together come together so beautifully because you can explain what's going on. So, like I was saying, every single thing is energy. Down to the molecular level, we are all energy. It's all vibrations. Everything's a frequency. Your thoughts carry a frequency. Your words carry a frequency of vibration. This table is energy. This mic is energy. You are energy. All of us are made out of matter, right? And what happens is that when you have an emotional reaction to something that happened, and a lot of these issues stem from your childhood. So for instance, you had issues with a parent during your childhood, and a lot of that caused you distress and stress. And as a child, you don't know how to process that because we're not taught how to have emotional intelligence. We're not taught how to process emotions. And what happens is a lot of these emotions come up, and because we don't know how to process them, but also we're taught to not feel that. And especially men, especially brown men, I feel even more, are taught don't cry, don't complain, suck it up, you're not a girl. There's a lot of that mindset growing up, especially with our parents and grandparents. They come from an older generation of really working hard and not being able to express themselves. And what happens is these emotions get trapped in your body. And when they're not let out properly and they get trapped in your body, as your brain is forming, as your body is forming, as your energy centers are forming, they're basically resonating at a certain frequency. And so you're going through life attracting the same things that are happening. So a pain in your neck could be related, most of the time, it is related to an emotional issue that we can start going in and releasing through so many different various modalities.
So there are many doctors at the moment who are who are taking a coaching style of approach. They want to know more about their patient, not just what's wrong with them, but getting to know them more than medical. So why or how open are people to coming to this kind of healing?
I mean, I think people are getting a lot more open to it. It's becoming a lot more popular in the recent years, but also not as popular as we would like. But the interesting thing is that a lot of, say, my clients, my private one-to-one clients that come to me, they usually have come to me when they have gone to the doctors and they've gone to therapists, they've gone to psychiatrists, they've tried medication. It's not helping. So they don't really have a choice, and it's kind of one of those things where we're so desperate and we really desperately need help, and you're basically our last choice, which is, it's fine, because I look at it from a perspective of, if you're coming to me in a state and you actually see how much change that has happened and can happen for you, then it's good for me. So you don't have anything else in mind of, I can still go and try this and I can do this and I can do that. You're actually taking your healing journey seriously. Because I may call myself a healer or a holistic transformation specialist, but the work that needs to be done is you. So if you came to me, or anybody that comes to me, it's not me that's the healer. I'm more of like a guide that holds your hand and takes you along this inner journey. You are your own healer. So that is so important, because it requires a change of mindset, a change of life. You get homework when you come to me, whereas when you go to a doctor and they give you medication and you just have to pop a pill, there's not much that you have to do there to change your life. You don't have to change your diet. You don't have to change the way that you're waking up and sleeping. You don't have to change the way that you're thinking. If the doctor, a lot of doctors now will tell you, if you're stressed, maybe go for a holiday or do this or do that. But what I do is I give you the tools. So if you're depressed and you have anxiety and you come to me, I will take you through the inner journey in the process. But unlike therapy, for instance, where you go and you're talking to a person year after year after year, and you can get quite dependent on them. Because I myself went through the phase of anxiety and depression, and I went to therapy and I studied anxiety for depression. So understanding that I'm not here to hold your hand for the rest of your life. And even though that may not work for me as a financial model, my goal is to make you completely self-sufficient, give you the tools that you need to help yourself, and also maybe even go out and help others, help your children, help the people that you work with, and be able to completely transform from the inside out. So if you go into a hospital with a pain, right, you might get pain medication and you come out and that pain for a while is no longer there. But if you come to me, whether it's relationship issues or can't sleep or depression or physical pain, you're going to walk out by the end, because I have like a 3 month, every like 12 sessions, right? So by the end of those 12 sessions, you're going to walk out a completely different person. And if you haven't transformed completely from the inside out, then I haven't done my job. But that's never happened, thank God. From the first session itself, the things that come out and everything that happens, it's you can't help but not, like, you can't not accept it, because we go deep into understanding a lot of different things like childhood trauma and different forms of processing, and I will test and map out your emotions and see which ones are trapped in regards to certain issues. And all of them, every time I've done them, have sound like they're all familiar, and every single person recognizes and understands that this is crazy, but I have all of this in me and can feel the release. I just wanted to add on that I'm not knocking down doctors or hospitals or therapists. Every single person is important, right? And there's so much value that comes from hospitals and doctors, especially in emergency, accidents, things like that. But today, what the world has become is completely reliant and dependent on doctors and on medication, which are drugs, right? So understanding that you don't need to take drugs for every single thing that happens. If you have a headache, or if you have a stomach ache, or if you can't digest your food, it's become so normal to pop a pill, just take an Advil, just take a Panadol, just take a Xanax. And that's what I'm against, right? And I'm not against medication either. I'm against the subconscious addiction and normalcy of these drugs when they're not needed, when there's underlying issues that need to be fixed here. So that's what I'm against, not against doctors or therapists, because they are important and they play a very important role.
Help me understand, what does a manifestation coach do?
So that's why I call myself a holistic transformation specialist and not just a healer, because I do all round. It's lifestyle, it's life coaching, it's talk therapy, it's helping with physical pain, it's actually healing like broken hearts. It's completely transforming you from the inside out. I've written a book. There's 7 steps in the book. It's called Heal Now. And in those 7 steps, the first couple of steps are for healing. But as you move towards the other steps, it talks about creation and how you can create the life of your dreams. You can create your own reality. Because like I mentioned earlier, everything is energy. Everything is vibration. And when you learn how to manipulate energy, when you learn how to use the universal laws in your own favor, then you can actually create your own reality, and you can make so many dreams of yours come true when you realize that you have that power to create. So the way I actually got into healing was when I found what you call the law of attraction. Have you ever heard of the law of attraction?
I've heard of the book, The Secret. Is that the one?
Yep. So that book, it's also a documentary, is, I think, the catalyst for a lot of people's, what you'd say, awakening. Mm-hmm. And it was for me as well. So I lived in England, and I had what looked like from the outside a perfect life. I had the big house in the countryside. I was working with children, and I love children. And I was married. I had a great partner, but I was so unhappy deep inside, and I firstly couldn't understand why, or wasn't even able to come to terms with it. But I started developing really severe anxiety, and that turned into anxiety attacks, which turned into really intense panic attacks. And I slowly moved into a really deep depression. Now, I think it was a lot of different things, but I didn't understand why I was feeling this way. I would be crying myself to sleep at night. I'd be going to work and I'd be crying, and I just wasn't functioning properly. I remember just constantly taking pregnancy tests because I just was always so nauseous, and it wasn't normal. And I later realized that that was actually my anxiety playing up. That's how bad it was, because it can get very physical. It's a somatic experience, right? And I did the therapy, I was given the medication, and I knew this wasn't the right path for me. The therapy wasn't helping as much. And I had gone on holiday, and I remember I was back home in Malawi, and I was watching this documentary called The Secret. And in The Secret, they talk about the law of attraction. And even though it's like a very beginner, it's very basic, it doesn't really get into the depths and all the different things that can go into law of attraction. But that it was something that was just such a big light bulb moment for me. And it stirred something so deep in my soul. It was like a truth that I remembered. And I just resonated with it so much that after I got back, I literally spent every single minute I had to learn more about this. So I started learning more about the law of attraction, about manifestation, about spirituality, like very over the top spirituality, personal development, and wellness in general. So I started practicing yoga. I started doing like lots of outside walks. And I slowly like started meditating, and slowly I started noticing changes in my life. I started noticing myself feeling better, being more excited about life again. And through that journey, I started another workplace. I started working with Eric Ho, who at the time was Eric Ho, is now Master Sri Akashana, which is a personal development company which morphed into a more like yogic spiritual community and company. They've actually moved here now as well. And I realized that a lot of the people that were coming there, they were coming because of the law of attraction and manifestation, because they wanted to create this big dream life, right? But everybody was just hurting so much inside, and everybody was dealing with this grief and this pain. And to some level or the others, so was I. So I, at the time, you could say I was at the peak of my career. I was being flown around the world to host retreats in Bali and big events and award ceremonies, and speaking on stage in LA and in front of 500 people. And I was speaking in all these stages in London and LA and Bali, and it was amazing. And the team that I worked with was just phenomenal. It didn't feel like work, right? And I couldn't believe that I was getting paid to do all of this and be all of this. But deep inside, I was still hurting. I still struggled with anxiety. I still to some effect, even though I wouldn't say I was still completely depressed, but I knew that I was not my 100% self. And that's where I started moving deeper into healing, trying to understand healing, trying to study healing. And that's when I got divorced. I left my home, I left my family, I left everything I knew I left my job, and everybody thought I was completely nuts and crazy. And I was terrified as well because I was just following my instinct and my intuition. And that's when I moved deeper. I moved back to Malawi and I started studying healing a lot more. I started trying to understand what it was, the secrets of the universe, the truth. I just wanted to know the truth because I grew up in a religious household. I used to be quite religious, and there's so many different religions. There's so many different paths. There's so many people saying all of these different things. Which one is true? And I just needed to know. I needed to have the answers. And that's when I went on my own inner journey. And that's when healing came about, and I knew that I was supposed to be a healer, and I was supposed to help all these people, and everything in my life had kind of amalgamated to me being a healer. But that doesn't mean I had to forget my first love, which is the law of attraction and manifestation. That's what makes me feel alive, and that's what makes me excited, because you can create your own reality. That's insane, right? We've never been taught that. You don't hear that in schools. You don't hear that on television. And you definitely don't hear that in your families growing up, right? You're taught to settle and do the right thing and find a job that's stable and all of those things. And your happiness, your true soul's desire, the biggest thing that you can possibly be and have, you're not taught to follow those things. But yet, when you look at the biggest people in the world, you look at the billionaires, you look at, Mark Zuckerberg, you look at Jeff Bezos, and you look at all these actors, you look at people like Oprah, it all started from a little dream. They all struggled in the beginning. They all came from nothing and moved into creating something so big. And the biggest example that I can find for manifestation and that still inspires me whenever I think about it is Baba Zayed, right? When creating this beautiful country that we live in, it was a desert. And any modern country or person that you talk to, no matter how advanced technology was, if you told them what Dubai would be from a complete desert in 50, 60 years, they would laugh at you. But it was done. It is done. We're living in it. Right? So we are living and breathing in this huge, massive manifestation. And there's a story that comes to mind when I'm not sure exactly if it was Baba Zayed or if it was another sheikh, but one of the founders was, I think as a child, was playing in the sand with his friends, and he was trying to build a sandcastle on the water. And his friends were laughing at him, saying, "What are you doing? You can't build sand on water. It's obviously going to fall." And he said, "I'm going to build these islands on the water and these houses on water, and you're going to see." And they all laughed at him, told him, "You're crazy. You're so silly. That doesn't exist." And you get laughed at. And everybody, when you have big dreams and you say that to someone, nobody's gonna believe you or support you in the start. And now we literally drive through the Palm and the World Islands, right? That's literally created on water. They make the impossible possible. So the idea of manifestation is whatever it is that you can hold in your mind, you can hold in your hand. Whatever idea it is that you have, it is possible. It can be created. And that is just shown to be true with planes, with cars, with the internet, right? If you explain something to someone that is not really on your vibration or your frequency on your level, right? They're going to laugh at you, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. That doesn't mean that something that you have in your mind, the desires that you have, cannot be created. And that's also another thing, saying that every single desire that a person gets or has through them, it's come to you for a reason, because it's trying to move through you. It's trying to be manifest through you. You are just simply the vessel, right? And when we have big dreams, for instance, you probably would want your podcast to reach millions of views, right? But when you're sitting in the beginning and you're working 7 hours on editing one video that ends up getting, 10 likes and 100 views, that dream feels so far away. It feels like, would that even happen? To the point of sometimes we don't even expect that, or we don't even think that that's something that could happen to us. But why not? Aren't there podcasts out there that have reached millions of views, billions of views, right? So understanding that everybody has been at the stage that you are once at, and anything that you hold in your mind can be created.
You have done a lot of learning during this phase, especially when you were going through your transition. Can you let us know what are the things that you have learned?
So I've done a lot of things. At university, I studied English language and literature, and I was also doing a minor in psychology and education. But when it came to healing, I was trying to find that just one thing that's like the end all be all that helps everyone. And I couldn't find just one thing that helped everyone. And so I studied lots of different things, and that includes hypnotherapy. I'm a meditation teacher. I do the emotion code, which is releasing trapped emotions through meridians. I do NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. I do EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. It's tapping, which also uses meridians, which comes from ancient Chinese medicine. Energy healing, which is a lot more intuitive. That's how I actually started. But I realized quite fast that if you want to work with people, or if you want to do things, then people want certifications and they want to be able to see what it is that you do, which was a blessing because I learned so much more and I was able to incorporate so many things. So I do intuitive energy healing. I do another form of energy healing called quantum touch. I'm also certified in Access Bars Consciousness, which is also another healing touch modality, crystal healing, and a lot of talk therapy and coaching.
What would you say when it comes to brown men and their upbringing when they were children?
I would hug them. I would hug all of you because it's tough. It's, you talk about, it makes me emotional actually, because you talk about women and all the things that women face. And it's true, women do go through a lot, especially brown women and in general, right? But it's that thing is that story is perpetuated. It's become so common that it's like a known thing. Yes, women go through a lot, right? But it's not known or even talked about how much men go through, right? And how much they are not given a safe space to be held, to be heard, to be talked to, because it's not easy being a man, right? It's, you are born and raised to in a very particular way. You're not allowed to feel something that's so normal and human and necessary to feel, which are your emotions, right? And that's why there's so much what's called, really popular toxic masculinity, right? Where does that come from? It comes from learning and embedded beliefs and conditioning about yourself and about the culture and society that you're raised in. And then you're growing up and men are expected to provide, and they're expected to be good husbands, and they're expected to be good fathers, and they're expected to make a certain amount of money to keep their family happy. And all of that is just taken as this is what needs to be done. This is what you need to do, right? And we forget that you have emotions too, that you have feelings too, that you get scared too, that it's okay for you to cry. Please cry, right? Because all of us need that release. We have tears for a reason. We have anger for a reason. And what happens is when that anger and those tears are not able to come out, they're channeled in the wrong way, because you can't hide them. There's only so much you can hide your emotions, right? And those underlying emotions just spur and boil until they come up to the surface, and they come out as anger issues, and they come out as stress, right? And they come out as all these different things. And you're just told to man up. You're just told to deal with it because this is life and this is what needs to be done, when that's not true, right? And my message to brown men, all brown men out there, is that you are so loved and you are so seen and you are appreciated, and we acknowledge you for everything that you've been through and everything that you do for women, for the world, for your families. And that if you do have stress and emotional issues and anger issues, this is not something that's wrong with you, and it's not something that needs to be suppressed. It's something that you need to speak up and get help for. And there's no shame in getting help. There's so much taboo, especially in the brown community, about getting help, especially as a man. And if there's anything I could say, is that that's the best thing that you can do for yourself, you can do for your family, you can do for the world. Because stress kills. Heart attacks in brown men, it's so common. Heart attacks in men, older, it's so common. And as we go through the years, the it's getting younger and younger and younger. You're hearing about all of these deaths, and they can be, it doesn't need to be like this, right? And we need you. We need you here. We need you alive. We need you present. We need you with us. And we want you to also be able to enjoy the joys of family, be able to say things like, I love you. How often did we, or did especially boys, hear that from their fathers, right? Not a lot of men can say that their fathers, especially in your generation, the older generation, to say, I love you and I'm proud of you. And without realizing, men are actually thirsting for that, right? So understanding that you are cycle breakers as well, and all of that doesn't have to come down with you. Our parents, our grandparents, they didn't know any better. They were in survival mode for most of their life, right? And now there's so much out there, and you can get help for all of these things. So reach out, right? Reach out, talk to people, get help, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is seen as a weakness, but it is the strongest trait a person can have.
Any message that you have for our viewers and listeners before we end this?
I think my message would be to everybody that's listening is that you are powerful beyond measure. You haven't been taught it. It hasn't been drilled into your head as much as all the other stuff out there is drilled into your head. But if you remember you are powerful, you can take you can take back that power, and you can create a life for yourself beyond your dreams. So all those big dreams that you have, those little snippets that you get of something that could be really big, something really huge, listen to those hits, because that's your soul talking to you. You're not born to live a 9-to-5 job. I mean, if you're happy in that, then good for you. But you're not born to live for the weekend or to look forward to your next holiday, to worry about bills and live as robots. That's not what we're here for. Every single person has a magic inside them, within them. Even if you think you're not good at school or you don't have anything particularly that you're good at, that's not true. You are powerful beyond measure. And if you just remember that and step into that power, then your life can transform in ways you would never imagine.